Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. Really excited for my next guest. Her name is Michelle Bisson. Michelle is a real estate entrepreneur and an RV park investor who built a multi-million-dollar portfolio by prioritizing time freedom, family, and strategic growth. After transitioning from a traditional style family rental portfolio, she found her niche in the RV park space. Known for turning overlooked properties into thriving destinations, Michelle brings a powerful perspective on resilience, ownership, and building a legacy-driven business that aligns profit with purpose. Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. You know, it's interesting because, we run in some of the same circles, and, investing in RV parks has become really popular in the last few years. What was it that attracted you to that space? Was camping part of like your upbringing? Is it like a new passion, or is it just purely business?
Well, actually, camping was kind of part of my upbringing, but it wasn't in the sense that the way that I do it now. I actually had never been in an RV park before I bought my first one. So when we went camping as children, we actually, my father was an infantryman, so we would get backpacks and we would hike into the Rocky Mountains and set up a tent and then fish for our food. So we did real rugged camping. So this is really poshy for me.
It is. Yeah. The glamping scenario, right? That term became pretty popular where, people just drive their cars out, and now they got these huge RVs that are rolling houses. Some of them are so glamorous with all the amenities, TVs and showers and multiple beds and a stovetop, and they can live out of those things completely.
Oh yeah. No, they're definitely portable houses. I've seen RVs that are completely custom done that have been a couple $1,000,000, to little travel trailers that are $20,000. So you can go pretty much across the board when it comes to getting your rig and decking it out the way that you want.
Yeah. Did you actually get one yourself yet, or you haven't upgraded to that level?
So I don't personally have one that we use because we have to travel through our parks so often. So we usually just jump on a plane and then stay in one of our cabins or a property that we have on site. But we do I do own multiple ones that I rent out to people when they come and stay in some of our sites.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it's kind of a nice way to try it to see if it's something that you enjoy. It's definitely a different kind of way of doing things, but I actually started in the single family space and then kind of grew into the RV park space.
Right. And then your first one, I heard that you actually moved out to Branson and you lived on site for 3 months.
Yes.
Most people, they just see the finished product, right? But they don't see the sacrifice that is put into it. What was the most eye-opening thing that you learned about the inner workings of that business by actually living in the middle of it rather than just looking at some spreadsheets from Colorado?
I think that one of the biggest things that I learned going into this business was that it was a business. It wasn't just a real estate transaction. And so I had always done real estate transactions, and I guess a little bit of the business side when it comes to having short-term rentals. We had built a boutique resort and property in Scottsdale, which kind of is the same thing. But when we got into the RV space, it really was definitely a full-fledged business that just happened to be sold with real estate attached. And so I think some of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this, especially from listening to some other people in the space, is that everybody says that it's passive, and this business is anything but passive. It's very hands-on, it is very intense, and it can be very, very much an everyday, all-day situation if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, I bet. So let's describe what an RV business is. You talked about, obviously, the real estate piece of it. There's a piece of land that's there, and then there is the management piece of it, and then there's all of the facilities and stuff. So can you describe what an RV park business and how it operates?
Well, first, I think that we need to distinguish between the types of business that the type of asset this is. So, a lot of people get RV parks and mobile home parks interchanged, and they're completely different assets. So, a mobile home park is where you bring in a modular home and you drop it on a piece of land. Somebody usually owns the modular home, and then you lease the piece of land, but they live on property. An RV park and resort has recently started changing into a place where people drive in their rigs and they can live on there permanently or for long periods of time, like work camps, man camps, affordable housing. But what we are vacation parks. And so ours are completely transient where people come to have a good time. And so we are not affordable housing. We are, people come in, they have incomes that they're wanting to spend out. They want an affordable option for families to go on vacation, and they want to connect back with nature. And so with our parks, everything is focused on the vacation, making sure that there's real connections happening and activities that are giving everybody, that feel good family connection time together, where you cook s'mores together, you hang out and fish together, and you just have a really good time laughing together. And you're not on your phones, you're out in nature. And so those are the differences between the two. So when it comes to operations, our operations would look very, very different than a mobile home park or a long-term RV park. When it comes to like the things that we do in our parks, so we have different types of parks. Some of our smaller parks are places that you go and park your rig. You have a place to go and stay. It's in your own stuff. So you're staying in your own bed, you're staying in your own camper, you're staying with your own dishes, unless you're renting something from us. But it's just a place to park so that you can then go and enjoy the activities that are going on in town for some of our tourist locations. It's a great place to stay if you're on your way across the country for some of our locations, like off of Route 66. But in some of our larger destination places, it's actually a place for you to go and spend a week at a time and have connections that you're making with strangers, family, friends, and you're doing full-on activities. We do everything from boat charters to golf cart rentals to karaoke night to full activity weekends, movie nights. We have arcades, we have laundry rooms. So they're full on. I mean, we have a huge restaurant. We do live music and concerts in one. So they're full on activity focused parks.
Yeah, that's amazing. I went to one of the ones that Pace had in Kalispell in Montana, and I got a chance to tour one, and it was beautiful. So it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's off a main road usually, right? So you don't have to drive a big distance from the main road to get to the place. And then there was like a variation of different spots, even within the park itself. So like some were like had electricity, some had like concrete pads and really like nice places to park. Others were it was just like a little area where someone could pop a tent, right? But they were leasing that space to just pop a tent. That's something that was secure, and because people get in trouble for camping on people's private land, and this is a place where they can do it safely. And then it had like a washroom, it had like a little country store, shower. And so it seems to me like there's a lot of places where you can do add-ons, right? Like really basic, just park. But if you want a better experience, you pay more.
Yes. You pay more, but it's not so much that you pay more. It's just that you have these added on experiences that you can then, like renting golf carts. We have a park that we have 20 golf carts on. We rent them for $70 a night, and we net about over $120,000 a year annually.
Wow. At that one
So,
park.
and that's in one park. Yeah.
That is crazy. So where do they take these carts to? Is there places that are close by they can drive them to, like the city, or is it just on the
So,
park itself?
So in that park in particular, it's on the park itself. The park is on 94 acres, and activities are all over the park. And so you go from one place to another. It's just an easy way to get from your campsite to the arcade to the pools to the water slides. Like that's kind of what that one is for. But we do have two parks that we're currently adding golf carts to, where you can actually use them in the city because they're golf cart communities. So our park in Alaska and our park in St. Mark's, those are both golf cart communities. So when we add golf carts to the area, then they'll be able to drive them throughout the town.
Wow. That sounds pretty cool. What are some of like the most unforeseen amenities that you've added that you didn't think would ever be part of the original business?
Wow. Well, when we started, we weren't in marinas. And so I have to say that was a whole new thing that we got into. So we now do marinas, boat charts, captain boats, um, sea charters. Um, we do full on stores. We have boat repair shops. We have boat storage. Um,
Mm.
there's so much that we've added on to all of our parks, but all of our parks are so different in the way that they feel. We've recently we're adding these cute little motor boats to one of our parks so kids can get on there with like their one adult and paddle around one of our ponds, but it's motorized. So it's just kind of fun because it's like they're driving their own little mini speedboat that only goes like, 2 miles an hour. But, but it's the fun that they have just being able to do that. Fishing licenses we own. We're currently buying a park right now. They sell the most fishing licenses in the entire state of Washington. So that's kind of something that I never thought I would get into. One of our parks currently has slot machines on it. That was something that I never thought we would get into. We have a restaurant and bar. We've done Sturgis live concerts. Those are all things that I was just like, when I got involved in it, I was like, I'm just going to be a place for people to park and I'm going to have like a laundry room. And now some of our events pull
Right.
in hundreds of thousands of dollars a weekend.
Wow, that is so cool. How, well, I've got so many questions, but let's talk about the deals, right? So when you're buying a place, typically people want value add, right? They want something that they can add value to, and that means you can get it at a discount, right? Because it's either mismanaged or the property itself is unkept. So what do you look for when you're trying to find a deal?
Well, we actually, whenever we're looking at a deal, we want to make sure that one, it's in a state that we like to work in that's business friendly. One that considers the owner more than somebody who's staying on the park. We like places that have resort zoned rules as opposed to tenancy laws because we are completely vacation. We're not a place for people to live. We also take precautions on our own side to ensure that nobody can claim that they live on our parks. We also like to look at how many pads are there, what all is going on in the area. Is there a call for people to be vacationing there, or is there a reason for them to want to be on my park? So we do have parks that are in very high destination places, but we also have parks that are kind of in the middle of nowhere and people go there specifically to be in the park. And I really, really like those because what people don't realize is that while it's great to be in a destination place, what's really great about being in a place where they want to go to your park because they love your park is that everything stays on the park. They eat on your park, they play on your park, they spend all their time on their park. They're not going to other places to buy dinner. They're staying inside and they're like eating at our restaurant or they're ordering pizza from our pizza ovens. They're doing everything in house because they want to stay on the park and they want to have a good time with their friends on the park as opposed to going into town where now they're out there doing all of that.
Mm.
It's definitely, we want to look for what's attracting people to the area. How can we double down on that? Can we expand on it? Is it something that we can increase? So recently we saw a park, it was about a year ago. Great park, amazing water park, lots of cabins, a couple of RV sites. Seemed like an amazing deal, was doing an amazing cash flow. But when we actually went to visit it, we couldn't expand it. There was really nowhere that we could do with it. They were already spending over $100,000 in marketing. So us marketing wasn't going to get more people in. Their RV sites were very empty. And so it was kind of like, there's not enough, they're not pulling enough people and they're doing all the things that we would have done. It probably isn't a good purchase for us.
Mm. Gotcha. So you're looking for expansion, value adds. Have you ever developed one from scratch? Have you ever just bought a plot of land and then developed it?
So I've built a resort from scratch in Scottsdale, like a stick and mortar resort. And we are actually in
Mhm.
the middle right now of working with the Kentucky Board of Tourism to build a park.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
We're working
So it's
towards that.
possible.
Yeah. So we're working towards that. We kind of feel like we're in a good space now. We've got multiple parks underneath us that cash flow and do really, really well. I feel like now our risk tolerance is ready to take on the next step.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, the other question too, is you mentioned something that I didn't even consider is you talked about the tenancy laws, and you said something about we're very careful about making sure that someone can't claim that they live on our park, right? And they would get like certain rights, right? Because they're there, and they like squatters' rights or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about exactly? What's happening in this space where are people coming on parks and saying, "Oh, this I've been here for a certain amount of time. Now I own it. Now I live here, and I've got rights."
So it does happen, especially in like long-term parks. What will happen is somebody will move in and then they just are, they'll decide that they're going to stay there. They don't want to pay. When you're dealing with affordable housing, especially, you just sometimes get people who move in for the wrong reasons and they just feel like they're entitled to stay there when they don't want to pay the owners. And electricity, water, all of that stuff comes out of the park and it's very expensive. And so when they're not paying, it's a detriment to the person who owns the park. And it then, it's just like having an apartment building or a single family home that you're renting out. And getting them out can be problematic. So in some states, you do have to go through a full eviction process, especially if they've been there for a certain amount of time. And so dealing with being in parks where we really only do a lot of transient, where they're on vacation, we don't do things like rents or leases. We do only licenses, and licenses can be revoked at any time. We don't allow anybody to nobody's allowed to send mail to our park. Everybody has to get a PO box if they're traveling. Not like if they're going to be there for a short period of time, but if they plan on being there for like say a month or two and they want to get mail, that mail needs to either go to a mailing system or it needs to go to a PO box. We don't allow them to use our address as their mailing address. Anything that distinguishes or that you can put a child into school in, we don't allow to happen on the park. So that kind of keeps
Mm.
us out of those zoning or those residential tenancy laws. So then instead of evictions, we're doing ejections. And instead of it taking 30 days to get somebody out of my park, it usually takes about 2 hours.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah.
that's much different. So in because you said you like certain states. Some people don't like to talk about it, but it's like red states and blue states typically, right? Where the laws start to diverge.
Typically,
If you
but there are
didn't,
actually a couple of states that would surprise you. Like New York has specific campground laws.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting. So I heard you talk about hidden leaks before, where you talked about that there's utility costs and there's underutilized space. And this is a place where you think you can make improvements in some of the parks that you're buying. Like when you're analyzing a deal like that, like what are some of the red flags that actually maybe excite you, like as an opportunity rather than something that's a detriment, because maybe somebody else wouldn't have the eye to identify those leaks and know how to fix them.
Ooh, definitely things like not having a web presence, not having a Facebook presence, not understanding your Google profile. Marketing is a really big one. If nobody's doing those things, then we know, okay, that's an almost immediate value add that we can have. Not having an online booking system. A lot of people, I don't know about you, but like for us, when we book vacations, they're usually after hours, after dinner, when we've talked about them at dinner and we're like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we like last night, actually, my husband and I were talking and we were like, hey, you want to go golf? We should fly out to Scottsdale next weekend and go golfing. Well, it's 8 o'clock at night. I can't call somebody and be like, hey, I want to book a room. I want to go online and look at prices and look at, all of that stuff on there. So I know for me and my family, we do a lot of things after hours, so we have to do them online. We're not going to call somebody. So adding an online booking system, if they don't have one, that's a huge thing for us. We love that. If they have no marketable presence, we love that, because that usually means that they have something special that nobody else knows about, and it would be great if we could get more people in to create revenue. If they've got empty space, we love the idea of having empty space so that we can expand once we've marketed and gotten the park to capacity. Are there things that we can add? Can we add golf cart rentals? Can we add e-bike rentals? Can we add a store? Not having a store is a great one. If we look at all of their bills over the year, is their water bill unusually high? Is there like a leak somewhere that they haven't found yet? So do we need to
Mm.
investigate that? That could save you thousands. Are they charging back for people who stay there for a long time? Like long-term people or seasonal people, we usually put meters on their electric and they pay for their own electric, because something like that in our first park, our first electric bill was $10,000. And we didn't realize it was going to be that high. But what we found out was everybody was plugging in space heaters and they were leaving them on all day while they weren't there. And it was draining our electric out. So being able to put meters on there doesn't just stop that from happening, but it stops people from using it extensively and being more cautious in what they're doing. So those are all, I mean, and so that itself saved us about, I think it was $80,000 or $90,000 that year in just electric alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. Do you pass any of those electric charges on to the people who meter higher than others? Do you figure out like the cost per watt or something like that?
So we do know the cost per watt for all of our campgrounds in all the different, because it's
Mhm.
different in every state. So we do have that on file so that we can charge accordingly. We don't charge when you're there as a vacation traveler. If you're there for a season, so if you're there, say for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever a season is for you, then we will charge that back. But usually if you're coming in to stay for a week or, a couple of days or whatever, it's usually built into your charge. Of course, now we're running into the fact that people are trying to charge their electric vehicles on there. So now we're trying to squash that from happening and setting up places for them to do that specifically.
And that would be metered as well too. And they would just pay per charge.
Correct.
Yeah. Interesting. So of all the things that you've added over the years, what do you think has the highest return on investment from your initial investment to what it can earn you over time?
I would want to say that it's the golf carts. As crazy enough as it is, it's probably the golf carts, because it is the craziest thing, but everybody wants to, and we add activities that revolve around, like we do a golf cart parade. And everybody decorates their golf carts. So they get them 2 or 3 days before, they decorate them. They're paying $70 to $120 a day for them. And then they want to be a part of the community and do all the same things. And so I would probably say that those, because we don't own them. We lease them from a company. So we keep them in season so we don't have to store them off season, and they get brand new carts every year. And that's kind of, but they cost, each cart costs us $200 a month to lease. In some cases.
Does that cost include the maintenance for them? Like if something breaks, you can take it back and they fix it?
We don't maintain them. We just send them back.
Right.
And then they fix them and send them back because they're leases.
Wow.
So, we pay for shipping and for the lease itself, but for each cart, I mean, if it's costing us $250 a month and we rent them out for $70 a weekend and we're booked throughout the season, that's 8 months of renting out these carts. It's probably our biggest return. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool. One of the things I was thinking about is that, like, because this is such a new business and people are starting to get into it, the ones that owned RV parks prior to it, the popularity, were mom and pops, right? So people who just kind of stumbled into the business. And I was thinking about, like, that's like their identity for a long time of their life, right? They live on the park, they operate it, their kids grow up there. It just becomes part of like their legacy. And I can imagine it's pretty heavy for you. Like when you're sitting in front of a seller of a park and they're handing over their life's work to you, and you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to buy 40 years of your legacy here. Like, how do you communicate to them that you're not just buying the operation, you're not just buying the business, but you're actually a steward in some cases, like to carry their family's legacy? Like, how does that work for you?
I take that very, very sacredly. Like for me, it means a lot because like my grandparents are ranchers. And so going through and living with them and understanding what the land meant to them, I grew up with that in my own family and I understood that. And so going to these people who I know have built up these entire legacies and they have spent decades building something that they love and have raised their families on, hoping that maybe one day their own child would take it over, and realizing once they got to that point, their kid had seen them working so hard their entire life that they don't necessarily want to do that themselves. They've gone off to do other things. That's something that I find extremely important to continue. And so some of the parks that we've had, actually almost all of them, if you look into their history, like I've had people who are in the industry who are like, I've worked on your park when I was a kid, or your park was the first park that I had ever worked on, or, you know, my family grew up next to the park that you own now. Or one guy was telling me, he was like, oh, he goes, the fish scale that you have outside your door of your store at one of our fish camps, he goes, we weighed every baby in our family in that scale. And like, so having that means a lot to me. And that means that, you know, like I'm carrying on this torch that these families have put together for years and decades, but I'm not just carrying it on for the people who created them. I'm carrying it on for the people who have come to love those places in general and who come there year after year. I have one family group that comes out and they come to one of our fish camps every year, and they've been doing it for 43 years. There's 72 of them. They rent out the entire place. It's all fathers, grandfathers, sons, grandsons, great grandsons. And they bring everybody out. All the little ones come out for their first fishing trip with the guys. And they do this for 1 week every single year. Well, I don't want to take that away from them. I want to celebrate the fact that that's what they love to do. And so by me buying the place, I'm continuing that legacy on. I'm not buying the place and demolishing it or making it into some corporate structure that they no longer recognize and they no longer want to be a part of. And so our goal is to take them over and keep as much of the park as true to what it is as we possibly can, while increasing profits and increasing the amenities and the things that make it better for the next generation. So, you know, you may bring your grandchild out now who enjoys it the way that it is, but when he gets to be 20, 25 and starts bringing his own kids out there, he probably wants a new cabin. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, he probably wants a restaurant or a bar on the site, or he wants a pool for his kids to be able to wind down on for the day, or he wants a place for his wife to sit and have a margarita while he's out fishing all day. So those are like the things that we look at, and I look at it from the perspective of a mom, as a business owner, and as a wife, and look at it and go, okay, like if I were to be here, this is the things that I would want. But if I'm looking at it from a fisherman standpoint, I would want these things to stay true to what they are. And so right. That is kind of what we do when we go into each of the park is we're like, okay, if I come into this family park and I know that my kids would love these things, then I want to keep these things true to what they are. But I also want to implement these things to give my kids more things to look at and more things to do. But I also want to keep it true to the nature of what it is. I don't want them on an iPad. I want them out playing basketball with strangers. I want them out riding bikes with other kids. I want them grabbing fishing poles and going down to the fishing pond. Mm-hmm. And so that's how amazing. I look at every business that I go into.
Yeah. You know, you talked a lot about family there. I can tell you're really passionate about it. And, you know, way back when you started this journey, you did it to reclaim your time so you could be more with your kids. But building a multi-million-dollar empire it's all consuming. Right. So how do you mentally switch off that entrepreneur side of your brain to make sure that the time freedom that you've earned is actually spent being present rather than just planning the next acquisition?
Well, I have to say that I don't think that there can be a time that you switch things off. I think when you love what you do and it's so much a part of who you are, it's just a part of who you are. And the great thing is that my family works with me. And so, like, my husband quit his W-2. He now works with me. He's our chief operations officer. One of our best friends, who's one of our longtime family friends, he actually quit his job in a franchise, a restaurant franchise, and he actually is our director of operations now. He works with us. So, you know, my eldest daughter actually handles all of our social media, handles part of our portfolio. She manages part of that. So I feel like we've been embracing and bringing in our family and taking everybody with us on the way to success. And it's not so much that we have to separate our time. It just becomes a part of what we are. So like now when we're like, oh, you know what, we're going to go do a big family trip, we pick a campground that we own that we want to go stay on. And so we all go camping for a week. And so it's not us saying, okay, we're going to switch that off. It's us saying, let's go enjoy something that we've built together that we all have pride in, and let's go do that. One of my best friends of 25 years actually manages one of my largest parks.
Mm, that's great. Which one is your favorite?
I cannot tell you which one's my
It's like,
favorite because I love them all for different reasons.
okay.
So
Which one do you go
even
to
though,
most often?
ooh, honestly, we try to be in every single park once a month.
Wow.
Between, yeah, so between me, my husband, our operations director, and our regional directors, we try to be in every single park once a month during high season because we want to see operations in action. We want to see how people are interacting with the guests. We want to meet our guests. We want to know them by name. Like, we want to personally have a stake in each park and know how they're all functioning. Everybody, they call it our executive team, but I actually call it our RV resort support team because that's what we're here for. Is we're here to support the teams that are in the parks. Everybody on our higher team basically knows how to run every single park from start to finish because we want them all trained. If something were to happen, we want to be able to step in. I personally have had to step into one of my parks and run it so that somebody could go on vacation.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you said you guys are traveling a lot, so you got plenty of options when you're out there going around. And you said that when they're in season, is that like what's the time frame there? In the to start like in April and go to like October?
Yeah, so around March time around is about when we start opening up for spring break in a lot of the parks. So a lot of parks,
Hmm.
but we'll start to open and we'll do like softer shoulder season stuff. Memorial Day weekend is usually the launch of all of our parks. So
Hmm.
that is the busiest opening weekend across our entire portfolio. And that's from Alaska to Florida. Almost every site is booked, everything is full force. It's the first time for the summer that our entire system will be online. Our sewers are at capacity. Everything's happening. We're totally packed. Um, One of our parks last Memorial Day weekend had over 1,500 guests.
That's craziness. Wow. That's a good
Yeah,
sized park.
yeah. But it's definitely it's a big one, and it's so that would be our opening day weekend, and then I want to say that Labor Day is technically the close of the season, but we have a very active Halloween October. So we do a
Hmm.
lot of October Halloween festivals in all of our parks. So I technically feel like November 1st is probably the close of our season.
Got it. Man, you make it sound so fun and inviting. I know what people are listening to this when they're going to hear it is like, I want to go experience this. So, like, how can people learn about your different parks? Is there like one central place where they can see them all together, or do they have separate sites? I just know that people want to visit, but also two people are interested in the business side of things too. So, number one, how can they learn about your parks? Number two, if people are interested in working with you in the business side of things, how can they connect with you?
So if you want to look at all of the parks that we own and the parks that get brought on, like right now we're in the process of closing on 4 more parks this quarter. So and they're parks and marinas. So if you go to wayhavenresorts.com, that actually lists all of our parks, and they have links to all of their specific booking systems on their own. So if you decide that you want to go to a Virginia park, you click on the Virginia park and it'll take you to the booking system. We're actually currently working on an app that you can map out our parks all across America and any affiliates that we have. We are also helping people get into their own first parks. So those parks will be part of our affiliate program where they'll also be part of our map. So, we can't own every park in America, but we want to be able to help people get into parks that they enjoy and they love and teach them operations and get them going so that they have a successful time too. And so, in order to get that to happen, we have this affiliate program that we are kind of advertising them along with us. Um,
Mm.
but if you want to know more about investing with us or actually working with us, if you go to michellebisson.com, then that would be the business side of it where you would find out more about that.
Cool. So we'll make sure to put those links in the show notes here for everybody so you guys can just easily get to them. But Michelle, this was great. Thank you so much for taking the time. I learned way
Absolutely.
more than I didn't know so many of the things that you talked about. Like, it seems so basic on that from the outside looking in, but there's so many moving parts. And the amenities that you talked about too, like I had no understanding of the amounts of different things that you can add on and just elevate people's experiences on these parks. And I mean, they're just creating like these memories, that will live on forever. And it's such a cool thing. And you can't get that same experience by going and staying in a hotel. Everyone's in different rooms, and and they're doing different things. They're not together. They're not interacting as much with the strangers, right? Maybe you're meeting people in the hallways or down at the casino or something like that. But I just feel like this park environment out in the wilderness just facilitates such like a community almost, where it's safer, and it feels like it's not as forced to interact with somebody you've never met before. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that it encourages interaction, and I love that about them, because you're right. When you're staying in a hotel, you're in your own room, you're watching TV, you're doing your own thing. I mean, I've done it with my own kids. Like, I've traveled the world with my kids. We can go and stay in a hotel, and they're in one room and we're in another, and we have a door that connects it, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're together. When you're in a park, it's just a completely different thing. Like, when you're doing something like we have this one weekend called Redneck Weekend. When you're running around in cutoff shorts and you're playing pickleball with skillets and everybody's laughing, you have this entire different perspective of community and just having a good time. And when you're laughing with strangers, I feel like those build bonds that you don't necessarily have every day. You don't always get to laugh with your neighbors because you're so caught up in your own stuff. But when you're on vacation and you meet somebody across the way and you're playing cornhole across a dirt road together and you're just laughing and having a good time, and the kids are riding their bikes, it just creates a friendship and a bond that you don't get when you go on different other types of vacations.
Oh man, sounds amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all this with us. I really appreciate you taking the time. And everybody, go check out Michelle's websites. Look into her affiliate program, where you guys can learn about starting your own park, working with Michelle on the business side of things and the operations. So check that out, and keep an eye out for more amazing guests like Michelle in the future on the REI Hacker podcast. We really appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.